Hey, welcome. This is Katz, and we are going to be learning how to use Inkscape for the Xcarve Inkscape to import into Easel and to use Easel with the Xcarve router. Inkscape, well, we'll get there. Close this window. You can go look it up on the web, but you can also go to my page here, lewiskatz.net, and go to my on-campus wiki, click Art Engineering Lab, go to Inkscape, download it. You're also going to have to download Xquartz if you're a Mac user and install them both. They give you directions on Inkscape. Inkscape is an Illustrator-like vector program for import into Easel or Makercam. It does a lot more things than that, but for us it works really well for our router table. So, hey, I don't want that, and I don't want this either. I want that out of the way. When you open up Inkscape the first time, it can take a very long time to open. There's all sorts of tasks that Xquartz wants to do the first time, and it takes a while. Every new document in Inkscape, unless you can figure out how to make the default settings stick, you need to change these default units to inches. And this to inches, if you're using inches. If you want to use metric, that's fine. Grids, you want a new grid. We are using a 0.125, at least I want a new grid. I like grids. Bit, and so I like to know how big the bit is, so I've set the grid to the same size as the bit in the router table. And I really like to be able to know how big things are when I'm working on them. So I'm going to set the major grid lines to red, and major grid line every 8. So now I've got a grid of 1 inch in red and a grid of an 1/8 inch in blue. I can close this. And I like to work in this lower left-hand corner. It makes importing things and finding them easier. The big difference between this and Illustrator is that in this program, you are not creating pixels of colors. You're creating shapes. Everything is either a line or a closed line or a shape. It's not that you're changing individual pixels to individual colors. It's that you're creating lines and shapes. And they're described more like lines and shapes. When you first put in a rectangle, it gives you this thing here, and you can make something have square corners by just clicking that, and it'll change the roundness in the corners to 0. Or if you want, you can change it to 0.5, and you'll have really rounded corners. Or whatever you want, you can alter it right there. Okay. And it says the width is 6, the height is 1. Let's make the height 4. The width 6, that's okay. Tab, and it'll get to be that big. When you select the object after you've made it, it gives you slightly different options here. This is the starting point for this square, and I'm going to set it so it starts right at this 1 inch by 1 inch point right there. So it's from this, it's measuring 1 inch X, and then the height, the Y coordinate, I'm going to set that to 1, and it'll set it right there for me. You notice it's goofed up the size a little bit. That happens. I assume that it's because of some imperfection in the way it figures out math. Okay, and so we've got our nice square. Once we've got this, there are a number of ways we can look at it. They don't make too much of a difference, but there's the stroke, which is the color of the line. We want it 100% opaque. And I want the stroke style in pixels. And I want it to be 1 pixel. Okay. Something got goofed up there too. Okay, so fill. Right now it's not filled with any color. I could fill it with black. Select black and you get black there. Or I can not select it. Both of those are fine if that's what you want to do. But if you select any of these other ones, it'll mess us up in Easel. I don't want it selected. I just want to be able to see this stroke. Stroke color is over here. I could set it to red. If I do anything special over here again, it'll goof me up. But I want to be able to see it. If I select this to 0, it disappears. I need it to have a stroke so I can see it. I'm going to set it back over here to black. Text. I can put text in here. I can select all of the text when I'm in there. I can change its size. It says 115. Now let's make it 56. Okay, now when you're doing this, you want to remember how thick your tool is. And if you look, some of these spaces in here are getting a little bit small for an 1/8 inch tool. I don't think that we'll get too many errors doing this, but the tool is not going to fit between this M and the U. Serif fonts, when you're trying to make them smaller, are a problem trying to get them to machine out. So let's change it to sans serif. And now I'm pretty sure the tool can get between everywhere. There might be a little bit of a problem in the A here. So we can change this and make it 72. And now it looks like there's 1/8 of an inch between all those letters, and we should be okay. If I want to center that with this, I can click the center tool here, horizontal center, and the vertical center, and it'll put it right in the center for me, which can be really useful. Text does not transfer well. So what I want to do with this text, and right now it is described as letters in a certain place and a certain size. I want to change it. I want to change it from object to path. And so once it's a path, I could go in and individually alter these letters if I want. Yeah. So it can be useful to have it as a path, but the other tool, if you're going to import it into Easel, it is better if it is already a path. So I've got those selected. Sometimes it's nice to have multiple copies of things, but you can do that in Easel just as well. And when I save this to go into Easel, I want to go to Save As. And I want to be careful what I select down here. And the best thing to select is plain SVG. If you've imported any drawings into here or anything to trace or auto trace, you want to delete the original images, all of them. So then I can save it as Lewis Katz into Easel. My caps lock is down. Into Easel. And I'm going to save it. I got in my Dropbox. I've got a temporary folder here. I'm going to put it into my temporary folder in Dropbox. Great. And so that should be all set. I also if I'm going to want to re-edit it, I'm going to want to save as. And because both things are saved as SVG, I want to make sure I understand that this is an Inkscape file. Otherwise, I can get lost. Okay, so that's it for that demo. And bingo! Have a nice day.